Welcome today to my show, Cassandra Bodzak. She's a thought leader, best-selling author, and sought-after speaker in the mindfulness and personal development world. She helps people all over the world in bringing their soul desire into everyday reality. Her latest book, Manifesting Through Meditation, is about turning your dreams into reality with 100 guided meditations. Cassandra, take us through your journey. What motivated you to write this book?
Well, thank you for having me on. And the journey started way before this book. I think my spiritual awakening journey began when I was in college, and I started having bad health issues that nobody could figure out what was going on. And it brought me to such a place of surrender and openness. And through talking to my body and talking to God and just talking to reaching out to whatever else might be out there to help me and guide me. I ended up figuring out I had all these food allergies, and that set me on this other path of just tapping more into my body and trusting the way that my intuition spoke through my body. And then it wasn't until I was 25 and my little brother got diagnosed with this terminal autoimmune condition that I really cracked open to meditation, because I got so desperate. I didn't know. I was always a relatively happy-go-lucky. I consider myself like a normal person in that way, where there were like things, challenges and stuff like that, but nothing super traumatic had happened to me up until that point in my life. And so seeing, your younger brother fighting for his life on a daily basis was just wrecked me and turned my world upside down. And one of those nights where I couldn't sleep and I was just sobbing and, kind of screaming at God and the universe why, I heard meditate. And it was the first time I had ever heard anything or I had ever really received anything when I was, in those moments of anguish around him. And so I was like, okay, the next day I got up and I started meditating. I looked up, on Google, let me look up some meditations. I really didn't know where to start. And then that led me to, checking out a Buddhist monastery, getting Buddhist meditation classes, going to getting Kundalini meditation classes, I just threw myself at it, like Vedic, like every practice. For me, it felt like that was the only way I was going to traverse that difficult time in my life and be able to be of a sane mind and be helpful to my brother. And then we're getting to where the book came from, because at some point what started happening was, because I was meditating so much, not only was I able to be more present and helpful in my brother's health journey, but things started shifting in my life dramatically. And all of a sudden I started realizing that, during some of my meditations, I would visualize this somewhat fantastical future, right? And the way that I wanted to feel when I woke up and how I wanted life to be and opportunity, things like that. And I didn't really question it. I kind of let myself have it. I was in this space of whatever brings you joy right now is good. Right. And so it brought me a little bit of joy. It was a good thing. I just let myself have it. But slowly I started realizing that my practice, it started influencing how I was making choices in my life. And so I'd make these little micro choices, really, but in the service of my joy, in the service of what felt good, what felt expansive, more important than anything else, right? And so I started leaning into this blog that I had that was just like a passion project. I started cooking more. I filmed some of my cooking videos because it was a thing that brought me joy during that time, right? And then all of a sudden my blog starts becoming really successful. People are emailing me, asking me to work with them as clients. I'm recording these cooking videos and I get a call from the producers at ABC saying, we want you on a show with Anthony Bourdain, right? My life just I didn't do any of the meditations to necessarily create success. I was just trying to find peace, right? And navigate this situation that was going on with my brother. But the byproduct of it was me manifesting so many incredible things in my life. And So when I got to, you know, I had a book after that was called Eat with Intention that I wrote, toured around, gave talks with that. And it was like more and more success. And my meditation practice and my spiritual practice only got like deeper and richer and, more intense. And then recently, the past few years, I've worked with for more than the past few years now, women and men all around the world, helping them get through their fear and their doubt and their overwhelm and get into, creating that reality that they dream of. And one of the things that I noticed when it's like not working, when they feel blocked, is that they're not meditating, right? And so I was thinking about, when I was thinking about writing a book, I was like, what is the thing that I feel like missing out there? What is the thing that I feel like people are not talking about enough of, right? And I feel like there's a ton of books on manifestation, law of attraction, meditation, right? But there wasn't really one that was stressing the importance and the connection of how our meditation practice is actually the foundation for creating whatever it is in our reality, right?
Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
where the book came from.
I think you just had a few very important keywords there. One that you mentioned is surrendering to something bigger, something higher than the self. A question to you is, so many people tell us, well, we know that meditation is good. We know that it's a good thing, but how do you integrate this into your daily stressful life? Most people out there working, they have their daily routines and challenges, they have families to take care of, and how do you create that space for that space for stillness?
Yeah, I think, on a large level, it's a choice. I think on some, like, I guess a weird way to say it, but I feel like on some levels I was lucky because I was in so much pain. It wasn't even a thought. It was like, I have to create space for this, right? The way I see meditation is the way, some people take like anti-anxiety medications, some people, have to take medicines for whatever, you know, my meditation is my medicine every day. It's the thing that helps me plug in. It's the thing that helps bring me peace, release that. So I think when we change the way we look at meditation and we change our intention behind our meditation and we get really clear on what is the purpose of our meditation, then we have more willingness to schedule it in. So whether that for someone is like, I work with some of the people I work with are moms, right? So they're working moms. They have so much on their plate, right? And they're like, I want to be a better mom, a better wife, a better worker, right? I want to be happier, less stressed. And I know that if I give myself 20 minutes in the morning for myself, before I go out and make the kids breakfast, before I, start thinking about my emails or all that stuff, right? That I'm actually better for everyone that I love in my life. I'm a better version of me. I'm more present and I'm even better at my job. It just has this ripple effect on everything in our lives. And so whether it's that, or it's like how I was in the beginning, where it was like, hey, I'm really struggling with this thing in my life. And this is something that helps me plug into my peace for a little bit during the day. Or it's like in the book, if there's something in your life you want to create a shift around, you want to create a change around, utilizing your meditation practice as a moment where you can do that and choosing that, okay, I'm meditating right now because my meditation practice is helping me ascend to a higher frequency so that I can connect with that career I want, connect with that new level of abundance or that partner. So I think finding the purpose and the reason behind a meditation practice, not just because it's trendy or because everyone tells you should do it. Creating a really personal reason why you meditate is helpful in being willing to create that time. And then the other thing I would say is be imperfect in the beginning about it, and allow yourself to just get it in whenever. I tend to say that right before you go to bed or right after you wake up are usually the easiest times, because even if you just stay in bed, just stay in bed, slink yourself up a little bit, your pillow's behind your back, right? You're all still and warm, like, and I mean, who doesn't want an excuse to stay in bed for an extra 20 minutes, right? And just keep your back straight, as you slink up to your headboard or whatnot, and meditate there before you fully start your day,
I
right?
think those are such important tips you're giving there, because so many people find that they have these dancing monkeys in their head. They have this inner dialogue, negative inner dialogue, that prevents them really from finding that quiet space. You just said, just before going to sleep in the morning, first thing before you get up, uh, is there a time frame that you would recommend? You mentioned 20 minutes. I guess for people starting off with meditation, it's quite difficult. Even 5 minutes would be difficult.
Yeah. So I think if you're able to give it 5 minutes consistently, then do that and start building up, right? The experience that you're going to have is going to be different in 5 minutes than if it's 20 minutes and if it's like 45, right? And so what the benefits to going longer is actually that if you sit down for a 20-minute meditation, and yeah, it's not going to be a picnic in the beginning for sure. All of those thoughts that are effervescing, like thoughts are just going to come up, right? You're going to be like, I have to do this. I have to call so-and-so. I forgot about the laundry, right? Like that's normal. We're humans. We're thinking, you're alive. So you're going to have these thoughts come up. Just letting them come up. Just letting them come up. And actually know that the thoughts effervescing, and I use that word effervescing, it's like if you ever have like a soda bottle and you open it, or like soda water, and you see all the little bubbles come to the top, and then once the cap is off, they kind of dissipate a little bit, right? They've like allowed to come up, and then they kind of relax. It's the same thing with your thoughts, right? When we allow them to come up, come out, come up, get out, just come up. Don't get attached to them. Don't try to follow them away, but just let them come up and out. Then eventually you find they'll start dissipating, because you're not trying to follow the thread, and you're not necessarily pushing them away. You're just kind of letting them, okay, look, there's an airplane. Great. There's an airplane. Oh, there's a bird. Great. You're just like letting them come up. And so the juicy part is, if you do a 20-minute meditation, maybe it does take the first 5-10 minutes for you to let all the bubbles out, right? And then you get a nice 10 minutes where you're like in the juicy spot, right? Where you're in what I call like the quantum field, where you have a cosmic ocean or that transcendence, or you just like boom, and then you're like, wow, I'm back, and like, where did I go? And I feel so relaxed, and I feel so centered. And so that's the only like caveat I give to the 5-minuter, because a 5-minuter, oftentimes you only give yourself enough time to have some thoughts effervesce, which is still very beneficial. But I find that it's that experience that you get when you really like drop down into meditation that then makes you want to keep going, because then you've kind of like tasted the nectar, and you're like, ooh, okay, I want to do this again. I want to do this again, right? Whereas if you're just spending 5 minutes like in quiet with your thoughts, it's less attractive.
How long did it take you to find that nectar?
Ooh, I like hesitate to say this, because I feel like I probably dropped in pretty fast. But I think I dropped in relatively fast. Like I think within like the first like week of meditating, because I immediately went to longer meditations. I am like, there was no part of me that like had any like airs that like 5 minutes would help me, because I was dealing with such massive sadness, right? Such like massive turmoil. So I was like, I'm going to need like the big guns for this. And so I immediately jumped into longer ones. And I think, yeah, I think I slipped in pretty fast. Like within the first day, I think I did 5 in the first day at different times. And I was just blown away. It was like a whole different world was opening up to me, and one that it almost felt like there was like this world that was waiting for me, like right here all along, that I had just kind of seen for the first time. Right. And so I dipped in pretty fast. And I think at first when I dipped in, um, you don't really know what it is, right? You don't really know what it is, but you know that it feels good, right? You know that you feel peaceful, and you know that you feel better after the fact, right? And you feel like, wow, I feel like so rejuvenated and so like peaceful. And yeah, so it was much faster for me. But I think it's, so like I said, I think so much of it depends on the vigor that you dive into it with.
Well, you obviously came from a place of pain that actually motivated you to change something. Now we find so many people today being pulled by these distractive forces, distractive negative forces, the mass media. Um, just take the pandemic and the war in the Ukraine and this daily bombast of negativity,
Yeah.
which obviously then puts people in a different spot, or the media telling us how we supposed to be living our lives,
Yes.
pulling us away from our true soul purpose. What would you recommend to people? What do you recommend to your clients? How do they find that connection to soul?
Yeah. And I think that that's where, that's where having a meditative practice, having a self-reflection practice, having quiet time, sacred time for yourself, I think is so important. And also just being really a conscious consumer, right? Being a conscious consumer of what you listen to, what you see on your news feeds, what you watch on TV, listen to on the radio. It's not about being uninformed about things that are going on in the world, but it's being able to decide, where am I getting my news from? And you don't need to be, spending 5 hours, 3 hours inundated with all of this stuff coming at you, right? You can like look up quickly on the New York Times or whatever, get some, kind of get the headlines of what's going on in the world or whatever, but you don't need to surround yourself with it. And you need to be conscious of, I call it your psychic diet, right? It's your psychic diet. It's not even the media. It's also, what are your friends saying to you, right? Do you have a bunch of friends that are, super negative or really down, or, really into fear or whatever? Being really conscious of what you're allowing into your space. And so a lot of boundaries, and some of them are easy, you set with yourself, when it's like, you don't turn on the TV, or don't listen to certain things on the radio, or if there are certain accounts on your social media, unfollow them if you feel like it's not aligning with the vibration that you want to. But I think, again, not to like be like, I feel like I am the unofficial PR person for meditation right now, but I really feel like it is meditation, because when you have that time, for me, when I'm sitting in my meditation, and after I meditate, I usually just do some journaling on like kind of anything that came through or what's coming up for me in that moment. That's when I find what my truth is, right? And what resonates with me, and what my guidance is telling me to do. And so it's like, you take in all of this stuff that you hear that's around you, all this stuff, but then you can run it through your own guidance system and kind of sort the trash, so to speak, right? And say, okay, that doesn't resonate with me, that doesn't resonate with me, that I feel like has some truth to it, that doesn't resonate with me, right? And you sort that out for yourself. And then you become, I think that's when we really become so sovereign. We become sovereign, and the stronger that muscle gets, it's much easier for me. I have at this point, I'm home with my parents or whatnot at some point, and they watch the news and stuff like that a lot more than I would. And I'm very sovereign in my own guidance system and connected to myself. So it doesn't bother me. I'm very clear on what I feel. So they can say whatever they want. It's like watching a movie, right? Same thing like that. So I think it's a great muscle to build, and having that time in general, that quiet, reflective time. In our society, we're like always connected. We're always texting people, or on Instagram or watching things. We just never have like just alone time without any stimuli. And that's so important for you to be able to have that relationship with your soul.
I think so many people have great difficulty in living without that stimuli because simply too afraid to look inside, to look at those
Absolutely.
fears, to look at that trauma from the past, which is obviously a painful path to take. And
Yeah.
a lot of people are afraid of taking that path. How do you confront that fear? How do you persuade people? Look, it's not without pain to look inside, but you have to take this path.
It's it's way more painful to not. It's way more painful to not look inside. Um, and there's, I think, an awareness in people that are on that journey, for a lot of them, that they're not happy, right? That they feel like something is missing, that they feel disconnected. And so I think there's a lot more pain in that than there is in actually connecting with yourself, because for all of the things that might be difficult that you had to look at, it's not that those things like disappear if you don't look at them. They're just like playing out in more insidious ways in your life, right? And then like you look at them, you illuminate them, and they already start losing some of their power over you. And in general, when you're taking more of that time and you're convening with yourself, you're gonna feel more peace. And it definitely requires a courageous life. And I don't think that you can force anyone to do it. I think it's something where if someone wants it, then they can pray for the willingness to take the next step. They can, start a practice on some level, start small, even if it's like, okay, the half an hour before bed, I'm not going to like no TV, no phone. Like I'm just going to take the half an hour before bed to do that. Maybe just even put on some like classical music or some light music and just breathe, right? Like there's all kind of like baby steps to do it, but it really does require the seed of willingness in the person, because if they're not willing, then it's like the gate's not open, right? And so they need to be willing to do it. And once they're willing to do it, might still be hard, but you can work with that. And that's also, whether you work with someone like me as a coach, or you work with like a therapist, or you do a book and you do like a meditation journey, or you sign up for a meditation retreat. Once you have the willingness, there's a lot of resources out there that can help you. And if you have a strong amount of resistance, I highly recommend a resource because it's going to be helpful, whether it's a therapist, a coach, a religious, like a priest or a rabbi or whoever, right? Like some sort of person that can kind of like help you along that path, I think can be really, really helpful if you're experiencing a ton of resistance to looking at things.
Is
Because you
there a
also
bit,
might, if you're experiencing a ton of resistance, you may very well have some pretty funky stuff to look at. And so it may just be the loving thing to do to have someone that can support you when you're starting to look at that.
yeah. So is there a particular meditation you would recommend for beginners?
Mm. So many. I'm like, what is, I think an easy beginner one that I'll give you two. One is just breathing into your heart space. So just starting by breathing into your heart space, imagining a ball of golden light in your heart space. And as you're breathing, feeling that
Okay,
ball.
let's do it.
Okay, you want to do it? Okay. So close your eyes, unless you're driving when you listen to this. If you're driving, you can just imagine it in your mind's eye, but keep your eyes on the road. And for everyone else, close your eyes and start taking some nice deep breaths in your nose, out your mouth. And just allow all of your awareness to be in your heart space. Just focusing on that heart space as you breathe. and allowing anything in the external world to just melt away. And now with every breath, seeing this golden ball of light in your heart space and watching it expand and glow brighter with every breath. And now feel this ball of light grow larger and larger with each breath until it's totally encompassing your entire being. And once you're surrounded with this golden cocoon of light, just breathe into it. Feeling a loving energy, the peace, the abundance of this beautiful divine light energy. And just soaking this light energy into every particle of your being, letting it integrate. And in this space, if you would like to, you can call in your divine support squad, your higher power, your higher self, any angels, guides, loved ones, any and all beings of the highest and truest good. You can welcome them into this space if you so choose, and feel them around you. And if there's a question on your heart and any guidance that you're seeking in this moment today, just open yourself to receive it. And just noticing what comes up as you are held by divine guidance. And then take a few deep breaths of gratitude. Gratitude for any guidance, gratitude for the peace and the truth and the knowing in your heart, in every cell of your being, of the truth of who you are. And then feel that giant ball of golden light shrink back into your heart center, integrate back into your being. And coming back into your body, back into the room, and opening your eyes when you're ready. It's a little mini version of it.
Thank you very much. That was beautiful. I think we would have to tell our listeners not to be doing this while driving a car.
Definitely, exactly.
There's so many things we could talk about, like the connection between mind setting and nutrition, for instance, and exercise, and all these other aspects that belong to living a beautiful life, to living a blissful life. But I think
Mhm.
that would really extend our time. Uh, what Obviously, your book would be available at all good bookstores, and where could people connect with you?
Yeah. So I have my book. It's Manifesting Through Meditation. It's available wherever books are sold. I also have actually a guided journal that'll be out on May 3rd. That's a spiritual awakening journal. So it has all beautiful guided prompts. Actually, I didn't think of it earlier when you asked, but that's a great step if someone's looking for a way to have more of that self-reflection time and like tune into themselves. That journal is really has some really beautiful curated questions for self-reflection and diving into that. So that's a great place to start for someone as well, or for anyone to continue their journey. And then you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, you name it. I'm Cassandra Bodzak. I also have tons of guided meditations on YouTube for free. So if anybody wants to start, that's, I think, a great, easy place to start. And they're all different lengths. So if you want to do a shorter one, don't worry. And my website is cassandrabodzak.com as well. And I think we'll give you a link. So if any of your listeners want to I have a Divinely Design Your Life 101 workshop that they can kind of learn about the four that I use for manifesting, and we'll do some meditations and a little energy exercise. And that's also a great place to just kind of, start that journey.
That's a very, very good few tips that we can include. And I'm sure some people would love to connect with you. And so glad that you gave us the time. Of course,
Of
our show is
course.
called Living to Be, Living Your Authenticity. And I think,
I know it's perfect.
yeah, it's a perfect fit. So thank you very much.
And thank you so much. This was lovely. Thanks for having me.